Good afternoon, folks. September 20th, 12:10 p.m. I'll try and get you out of here for 1 o'clock. There's a fair amount going on in the market, and I just have to say, I really appreciate a few of the notes, the messages I got about calling the turn in the general markets. I can see it coming, and it's been good. We have a lot more charting to get out before the end of the week. Hopefully we can get through them all. And that'll bring our count up to pretty close to 130 equities that we're following. And we're getting a lot of them really nailed down. So what I'm going to do over midday here is I'm going to take a look at some of the stuff that some of our setups that are moving today. First I'm going to look at oil, then the others. Oil, SP, Apple, Netflix, Facebook, Edit, CRON, and NBEV will be the first ones, and then I'm going to go to that swing trading feed of ours, alert feed, and pull up there and look at any others that are on there that need to be looked at. And then I'm going to look at the hot stocks for the day in the market, and hopefully we can do all that before 1 o'clock here. This afternoon again I'm going to get out for a free dive. It's nice here, and so I'll be gone for a few hours and a little bit of rest, and I'll be back for futures. If you don't see the trading room open at night in futures, you can message me once in a while. If I don't have a lot of activity, I won't open it until later. Usually the activity in what we trade starts around 2 a.m. or so, between 2 and 4 a.m. So sometimes I don't open it until later, but if you want me to open it earlier, just let me know, message me. And yeah, that's about it. So let's get into the charts. So oil, I'm really happy about my swing trades this week. It's been massive for me, especially that NBEV. But a lot of them have been really good. But anyway, my point is down here I was taking longs and didn't hold. Of course, my life's busy like anybody else's. But when you see me start chewing around the edges, if you can stay on top of it, do it, because it's paid off for sure. So I'm a little peeved at myself about missing that. Now, I think what's important is the way it consolidated around the mid quad after that. So it did hit the top of the quad for a nice short. I know Oil K got that one. And here it consolidated, and then it ran up to the top of the channel. And then, of course, I was shorting it at the top of the channel, and again, I had to leave. And sure enough, it came off. And now it's at quad support here. Now, I think this is where the Trump tweet came in. I put that on my Twitter feed. So is it going to consolidate again around this mid quad and go, or consolidate under pressure and dump? I think those two scenarios are the ones you should watch. So I would expect, a little bit of a long here and then consolidating into Friday, and then whether or not we have a dump. Those targets have been really consistent lately. This is not the machine model. This is the conventional first generation modeling of Epic. And it's spot on. I mean, I went into the week saying I was going to long the channel support that's down here, and I was going to short the channel resistance up here. And had that been executed, there was one good trade here, one here at the bottom, and then even the mid here has been good. So there's really 5 trades this week that have been fantastic. And coming out of that boot camp trading boot camp, I should have nailed it, but I can't be in front of the screens 24 hours. I'm already in front of them 18, 19 hours. So, and I'll hit burnout too if I push that too much. So that's what I'm seeing. If it doesn't hold up here, then Friday could be a radical day, back down into this lower quad. We'll see if that takes place. By the way, we're really pushing the, and I've mentioned it recently, we're really pushing the bandwidth in here. There's 6 laptops, and depending on the laptop, this one's running the least amount of charts because it's running the room. But some of them, I'm running, 20, 30 charts on them. And then my support staff, they have remote viewing, so they can, they're in the office, not at my location, but on the island here. And anyway, so we're trying to find a solution. So if you could comment on whether or not you can hear me okay, that would really help. The S&P, so I've been alerting this as a test area, and it did get up over that resistance, 291.60 area. It's been okay. It hasn't been great. It did gap over it. It's now into a test area in here. I guess we'll see. I would expect it to struggle in here a bit, though, for sure, especially where the markets are trading. That's about all I can tell you. I mean, if it falls off, your first target on September 24th is 288.88. A little farther down would bring it to 283.77. Going forward, your trajectory, if it slides off, reasonable targets would be 283.77 on September 28th, and then maybe even one a little lower into the 275s. And then up, if it got crazy, you could look up into the 299.50 area, and then up in the model from there. This will be updated right away. And I apologize, some of our models were a little behind on, but we'll get going on it. So intraday, your main resistance is 294.33. Main support, 293. On Apple, there was a trade alert. Actually, there's been trade alerts on oil and the S&P too. The trade alert on Apple was specific to the fact that it was bullish in pre-market. Up over its 50 MA here on the 240, testing the 20, and that's where it's come off. It's got key resistance right here at 224.70. Gets up over there, then you're into resistance at 229.70 area. And the buy-sell triggers aren't marked on here, but there would be one here. So really heavy resistance into 236.75 if it gets there at some point soon. There isn't a model that time cycles this, so I can't give you the time cycles on it, but we should have this one done fairly soon. That's Apple. So your intraday support, really it's the previous low here, 215.60 area. I don't expect it's going to get anywhere close to that. Well, I guess there is one here. 219.02-ish. The Netflix model is a little more complicated, but it's spot on. It's been awesome for triggering. These light gray dotted lines, and you probably can't see them, you'd have to open the chart. Maven took a really serious long here, and a bunch of the other more senior traders we have, and that was a great trade. And then of course they trimmed in here once it got into the 200. But you got to watch those. So there is one right under where it's trading right now. There's another one up here, and it is in the test area. So those horizontal blues, reds, so the area between those, I didn't draw a box in there, but that box is there. So you do have support. Well, you have that gray quad wall, the dotted gray line at 364-ish, and then you got horizontal fib support at 362.14. You've got the uptrending gray dotted line up here, just underneath the range resistance at 395.59, and then range resistance starts at 397.90. And then again, you've got another quad wall up here. So you just gotta open the chart and look for those diagonal grays. They are spot on this chart. That's Netflix. Okay, this is Facebook, one of my favorite trading vehicles for washout snapbacks. The only problem is it is under significant government pressure. So I wouldn't expect. I mean, it has paid major bills for me this year, but I'm not expecting it to do it again this year. I do take these trades, but very light. So small sizing in comparison to previously in the year. Things like NBEV have replaced that for me and a few other trades. On Facebook, the trading range, these horizontal red and blues, so on every chart on the models, so it's in the test area, right, between here and here. They're really consistent, and when it got into this quad wall here and started to bounce, that's your time to watch, and especially when it bounced back up over them. So whenever you get this charting, you can alarm those areas as your main support and resistance areas on the charting. There's a pivot right in the middle all the time, the mid quad, and then we'll just watch your MAs. So this has been nothing but buy signals, but into that mid quad, caution 167.51, and then your 100 MA around 169.40, and then this quad wall. This is a diagonal fib, downtrending diagonal fib. If it gets up over those tests, I can almost guarantee you it's going to come off there. If not at this test area, the horizontal blues and reds. So 173.51 is your upside, and your downside is in the 160.93 area. And I'm quoting the blue on the way up because that's the first resistance, and I'm quoting the red on the way down because that's the last support. So that's kind of your key range, and then your mid pivot. And that's the way all the charting works. And your main buy sell triggers are at the pivots, but really your test area is outside of those pivots on either side as it coils around. But it's been a good trade for the crew, just not fantastic yet. It could turn out okay. I just don't think the mood is right for it to do what it's done earlier this year. Sorry, I am taking notes in between here of my own personal, so that's why there's delays. So edit is another one of those special trade setups. Like, we've had a number of these, and I should probably do a post on it sometime to bring these to the forefront so people have an understanding of the value of algorithmic modeling. The value of it is when you have the structured setups with symmetry, with heavy symmetry, and you have that predictability where that GPS is working really well and you're trading in bright light, clear in comparison to the traders that are in the dark, that's where you hammer down. So, we've had tons of these setups since we started developing these models. GDX, we had one where it kept hitting, I don't know what it was, 7 or 8 or 9 times. I just put out a special post on Ballard Power. I put out one on oil one time that said the last 12, 13 time cycles this happened. There was a price reversal and bang, it happened again. Ballard's is the last 5 time cycles, and they're large time cycles. Like in that Ballard one, that's a weekly. NBEV, there was a clear post put out on that of exactly what you could look for in the run, and now there's an algorithmic chart structure out. AGN, weeks before, exact day for an exact dollar for the big turn that I called a career winning trade. I mean, if that wasn't a clue of how confident I was in it, and then I completely put my reputation on the line with that one. Told the whole world, or anybody who will listen anyway. Edit, this one, good example. It's actually hit 5 times, and once you get into the 5th time, you got to get ready for the 6th or 7th not to hit. So I put out an alert this morning saying, look, it's testing and you got to watch out because that time cycle's coming. And so typically into these time cycles, you start to see volatility, right? And you want to be very cautious. So we trimmed heavy at the 200 MA, and especially because the time cycle's coming on the 24th. So what is that, Monday? 21, 22, yeah. So you could see this dump heavy or spike into, but that's edit. So I won't give you the levels because I've gone through that one so many times. So CRON is C-R-O-N, nice structure, surprisingly so considering the equity that it is. So I've reviewed it lots this week, so I won't review much, but I will tell you that there is a sidewinder, a very light one, setting up on the 4-hour chart. Now, sidewinders have the highest predictability setup for momentum. This is really light, though. It's not a tight sidewinder. You see that 50 MA right here, the purple, and that light blue, that's the 20 MA. When the 20 MA crosses up through the 50 MA with price above, especially when it's on a support, you can expect a move up or down, but typically it's up. Now the problem is this is a 4-hour chart. The structure isn't big, so the bigger the structure, the bigger the move. But it's definitely going to test wherever it's sitting at the time that that 20 comes through the 50, especially as that 20 gets closer to price. Anyway, in some equities, especially really tight sidewinder, like this one's really flat and long, so it's on a lower time cycle and it's not a very heavy duty sidewinder, but it's enough that it could be what gets up over this resistance. And so you look for that setup when you're getting close to a key resistance, which is what you got here at 1460, right? It failed, the last 2 times it tried. We're targeting up here. If that sidewinder works out, you're not in the high 90% chances it'll turn up here into 1678 on September 27th. Your test area, of course, here, and your pivot is where it's at, and your downside and a dump is 940 on the same day on the 27th of September. That's CRON. Pardon me, NBEV. So I put out the algorithmic chart structure, a real basic generation 1 for the weekly, big structure. I put it out specifically at the time that it was at the quad wall on this structure. So, it was called down here. I said if it got up through this area that it was time to go, and we went. And it's been fantastic since. But guess what? That's a quad. That's a quadrant, trading quadrant. That is technically now it's uptrending until the time cycle. After the time cycle, if it's not through this side, it's downtrending. But anyway, my point is that that's serious resistance. So you've got a trading box testing area. From here, on the low side is 640. The high side, the highest part of the test is in the 936. So this is a test range with a pivot, your primary pivot for that structure at 788. It's testing previous highs too, so both are coming in at the same time. So this is serious pressure. Now, to feed the bulls' dreams and desires here, if it gets up over this pivot going into the 27th or 28th of January, this thing could extend without a lot of challenge into 1420. Crazy, hey? Your main resistance in that challenge is going to be right here, the 930 area. So your structure right now, you could assume it to be like this. If that in fact holds and price blasts through that time cycle, here's what will happen if it blasts through. So that's a typical structure. Usually you get a back test of the quad right here. And it does something like that. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm going to save this because I'm probably going to do a special report on this for members if I get time. NBEV time cycle. Wow. NBEV. These keys get sticky from the salt air, you know. NBEV time cycle. Time cycle. Time cycle. Come on, guys, work with me. Time cycle, bullish extension. Very probable. If you're not in this one yet, watch that time cycle and watch for what I just showed you. I can even put that chart if you like in the trading room here. Be very, very, very cognizant of that trade. A trade like that can make your whole year. It's easily made my last month or two. It's so predictable. Now it's bullish here. It is possible that it just runs right up through these tests and into the top of that time cycle. So watch it very, very, very close. That is a sweet setup. But remember your key resistance up here in the 930s. If it gets up over 938, it has to use that as support. If it comes underneath that, be aware. 940 is really critical support if it gets up over it. Really important. I can't tell you how important that is. It's crazy important. By the way, if you have any charts that you want me to look at in midday reviews, you're welcome to put them in. Okay, so we're going to take a look at some off the swing trading. Now, for some reason, Twitter has messed up our audio feed. So if you find that happens, let me know. And by the way, my apologies to the couple people that messaged me about not getting into the room. By the way, that's a bandwidth issue. We can only put 25 people into each room, and we have to use remote viewing to get the job done. It's kind of complicated, but third world problems when you're on a beach. People are like, what are you doing in a third world country? What is third world about this? Swing trading alerts. Okay, swing trading alerts it is. So if there's anything happening with my mic, if you don't let me know, if you could let me know, please. While I'm in sorry, I just got a message there. While I'm in Twitter here, and then I'll get back out. So this is the Ballard Power alert that I put out. Hopefully I'll be able to put out a special report on it if I have time, but this explains it well enough, I think. So the swing trading alert feed, Ballard Power BLDP, 5 out of 5 of the last major time cycles, price reversed. October 10th is the next time cycle peak. So you got 1, 2, 3, you see those vertical lines? 4, 5. Your next one's October 10th. Now, be careful, because in symmetry, as soon as you get into 5, you're really extended. Now that oil one, remember that oil one? It went 12 or 13 or 14 times. GDX, I think, went something like that. You know, so lots of them go farther, but you have to be aware of it, right? So you just take the trade, you know, based on the timing cycle and which direction it's going. And these were big dumps. Like this one was huge. This one was really nice too. I mean, this was almost a full run, you know, if you held through this. So let's look at this chart real quick. What they're doing for me here, by the way, is I've succumbed to the pressure, and I've got a lighting desktop instead of laptops. I have the laptops so that I can travel, right? But anyway, I'm gonna allow one desktop in here because it looks like I'm gonna be here for a bit yet. And then on middays, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna load all the charts on that desktop. And quantum computers will be here soon too, right? Lots is gonna change. Anyway, so you see where you are in the chart right now. So it's trading 450 up 7.42%. It doesn't surprise me that it's starting to spike into a time cycle completion at all. October 10th through time cycle completion. So the red and blues at the top, the red and blues down here, resistance at 450, and this is your range here. Now, as it gets into that time cycle, be careful let it complete, you know, so it's probably going to be in and around 5.25 based on its current momentum. Let it, you know, tell you where it's going to go. You can always wait for the red and blues either way to finish and then take the other side of them, or, you know, use the mid pivot line. But I'll be on top of it. I've got it. You can alarm these verticals, by the way, these time cycle verticals. So I've got it alarmed, and I'll tell you when we're there. BZUN, holding key support intraday. If it holds, run up is possible. So I'm not going to open the chart, but the reality is that that's a mid quad, and it's getting to the end. You see how this, there's your uptrending trend line and your downtrending. And so it's coiling in here. As it gets closer to the end, the termination of the time cycle. And this is only a 4-hour chart, so get ready soon. And my expectation is up, but nobody knows. But this is a falling wedge that's starting to build. I would expect an up move. It's a fairly high probability trade setup. New age beverages, we went through that. NBEV. Advanced micro, AMD, hit key support and bounce. Targets 33.62 October 2nd. We're in a sell-off 28.87 on the same day, October 2nd. Watch structure outlined on chart. That mid, that quad there, that mid quad, it's very possible it doesn't hit the top target, it doesn't hit the bottom target, it hits the middle target. You know, if it stays inside of the structure and it stays indecisive, it'll hit that mid target. So you'll have to open the chart and see where it is. I'm not going to, well, I can open it enough to do this. Can't really see it. It's in the 31.40 range, 31.30 range. But you can see how it hit support here. OSI Systems, OSIS, trading 77.55, testing 50 MA and key fib resistance. So those are both key resistance areas. That's a diagonal fib. Over targets 84.21 December 28th. So if you like a nice structured, easy flowing setup, if it gets up over this resistance noted, it does have another. This is a bit of a funky chart. The model was a little more complicated than most. There's a resistance line here. So you just let it test over each one and add. Test over it, add, test over it, add. It does look like it's going there. And that's basically a gap fill too, right? So it's very high probability setup. If it doesn't and it dumps, you can go, go down to the next, and that's your support level. But very high probability setup, especially since it consolidated and bounced, and it's starting to get structure with its MAs. I wouldn't doubt you see it go, and that is a downtrending wedge there too. So that's OSI Systems, OSIS. If you like a real structured, easy flowing trade, there's one for you. CARA Therapeutics. I knew this one was going to go. I'm going to bring this one up because you don't get many trade setups that are this strong. So while this opens, I'm going to just give you a quick trade coaching piece of advice about the work we do and trading the work that we do and you learning the work that we do. It pisses a lot of people off because it requires work, and it pisses people off because you have to think more than the lizard brain casino player. And I get it because I was a casino player. I mean, a real casino player. So because I get it so well, and I can really mess up still, like I was challenged with my oil trading there for about 10 days. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. The last thing I want to do is go to work for what I, for what I earned. I mean, really, I'd rather be surfing. But I'll tell you, here's the key. If you learn how to do this and you structure your models and they're proper models, then what you can do is you sit in the weeds. And then you can do things like I've been doing and saying, look, there's an inflection coming. I know there's an inflection coming. The inflection comes, the trades come, the real structured stuff, especially the stuff with the symmetry like I've been showing you. And you go back into the history of our posts, look at those GDX, look at that oil one, 12 out of 13, look at the Ballard one, look at NBEV, AGN, edit. Those setups, and there's a whole bunch more. You can really hammer down on. So instead of over trading, you can really, really hammer down in a way that other people can't, and you can make up your years so fast. And that's the way to do it. That's my personal opinion. Of course, there's other methods that work, but there's very, very few methods that are that consistent with that probability where you can really size and you can really make up your year really fast. And when people ask me how I do that, because they see it real quiet, I'm quiet, I'll be chewing around the edges, and all of a sudden, boom, that's how it happens. And it works. It's just a matter of, it takes work, and you have to pay attention, and you have to alert your charts and that kind of stuff, or you just follow, the alert feeds and stuff. Okay, CARA. CARA is a great case study. So going back to that NBEV chart, the NBEV chart, I was saying if price gets bullish into the time cycle, so this is a time cycle completion here, December 17th in CARA. So you see what price did? It got really bullish. It hit the target early, super bullish signal. Came off. Now look what it did last time. Didn't quite hit the target early. Came off, then came back at the target early, hit it. It blew right through. Look at where it blew through. Look at the symmetry. It blew through almost at exactly the same place. And here it's testing the test area. There's your blue and your red, right? There's your quad wall. See how predictable this is? It tested it here. You can tell by the body of the candle and the big wick up here. What happens? It gets up over that resistance area. Shorts panic. Boom. You're going to see 28.20 and lightning speed. This should be on super high watch for you. There's no reason for a trader not to be taking this trade. Zero. Now look at at high day on a Thursday over lunch, up 6% into its main resistance, key resistance. Can I scream that one any louder? Okay, so why don't I do this? I'm just gonna do a quick alert. CARA on high watch over. Sometimes it's really hard to get the alerts out because you just don't have time, right? And you want to scream as loud as you can, as fast as you can, but over 2390 sees, where is that? Right here. Possible 2850 very fast. Look at chart model on trade alert earlier. High watch setup. Copy. Swing trading alerts. So I put it on the alert feed. For those that aren't paying attention, maybe they'll get in the mode with me. You know, I'm even going to email this one quick. You know, you see me chew around the edges and then sit in the weeds and stuff, but when you see me start to scream things as loud as I can, just, you know, and it's not ego, just look at, I just know the nature of my trading because I deal with the structured charts, right? So you see me chew, 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 sit in the weeds, chew, 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 and then I start to get really aggressive. At that point, boom, follow those aggressive, you know, alerts. Dig into those charts, understand the structure of them, and go with them. You know, I'm even going to alarm this properly. Let's just do this. I'm just going to put another alarm in. Hopefully I sent out the right figures there. I didn't double check what I had just done. That thing's going to alarm too early. But anyway, I guess I'll just reset the alarm. So that's CARA, C-A-R-A. Don't ignore that one, please. BABA. So this is the swing trade that I was underwater on. To me, this one was a no-brainer, but you know, I get it, you know. Bounced off the 100 and got back into a structure. Now it's testing a quad wall. It's got all kinds of tests. If it doesn't grind through here, I'll be really surprised. Very, very surprised. At this point, it's targeting 206.85 on December 17th. Not huge, but it could easily extend up into here into 237.62 on the same, not the same day, sorry, May 27th. Now I could be wrong. It could come off to this pivot. It could even come over, to this test area. Anything's possible, of course. Okay, I think that's all we're going to go on with those for now. I think we'll just go into the movers. It's 12:50, so I'm going to try and get those done within 20 minutes. Get you out by 1:10. By the way, you see this SSW? That was that resistance. It came off resistance. Boom. Again, THO, there's charting on that. HCZ, one of my favorites to play in downs. It's just not ready right now. I've already looked at it. JWN's interesting, but it's not enough of a dump to get into. So the dumps, I'm just not, I looked through them. I'm not there yet with them. Just so you know. So the first one will take a minute here to load. The rest of them will go quick. LEVB is going to be the first one. Before I forget, if you need some explanation or you want to refine your trading a little bit, or if you get into a bad run, so if you need to learn what we do, if you need to refine what you're doing so you get a better return every year, or if you hit a bad run and you need some trade coaching, sign on for 3 hours. And yes, I'm selling this. The reason I'm selling it is that 3 hours, I can normally help you figure out where your mental triggers are that need to be corrected and get your subconscious retrained in that area to only trigger wins. And that's the key. And how do you get that? You get that in structured trading. So understanding how structured trading works, harnessing your emotional intelligence to wait in the weeds until you have the setup, and then triggering it. And then what that does is it trains your subconscious to win, and then your subconscious won't allow your conscious to trigger poor trades. And then your losing runs get smaller and smaller in duration, and your trading wins get wider and wider in terms of width, time duration, and also the margin of those trades. Cool. Cool. That's my sales pitch for you. Level brands, super bullish chart. Anything over these previous highs, you can look for an extension equivalent to this extension here. That's the bottom line. So that's LEVB, level brands. So really, anything over where it's been trading today, call it $6 to make it easy. And if it does that, we'll I tell you what, I'll alarm it. If it does that, we'll structure it right away for you. I'll model it, and yeah, it looks like it's going to go. But, I'm not going to take it until it's confirmed. LEBV, CARA, we went through. Edit, oh, sorry. ASCMA. No, junk. NBEV is ours. Aha. ALT. I wonder how many people trading ALT know that it whacked the 50 MA brick wall at 100 miles an hour and backed off on the weekly chart. Anyway, up against the 50 is one thing. If it gets above the 50, why not? Let's alert it. We could run it to the 100 MA. That's ALT. Whoops. Shoot. I gotta rework this alarm here. Next one is CRBP, Bob Paul. It's just way too choppy. Very aggressive chart, but too choppy. AWSM, Cool Holdings, garbage. So up over the 200, this is YGYI, YGYI. Up over the 200, never holds it, complete garbage. AYTU, way too choppy, garbage. XBio. So there's a special report out in this setup. When did I put that out? Not very long ago. I'm just going to check here quick. I got distracted with something else there, sorry. Anyway, I'm going to look that one up. Wasn't it XBio? Anyway, I'll leave it to the special report to explain. OSN. XBio, by the way, is up 23.09%. OSN up over the 200. Could it get snaky? Sure. Could it be structured? No. NIHD up 19%. Okay, here we go again. Super aggressive structure. Look at how it's bounced off that 20. Man, this is aggressive. Now, it's trading 506, and really there's a good argument for the other side of the bowl at 560-ish. But it's really not until 9/11. So 560, let's call it 6 1/4 to be safe. So, you know, in the neighborhood of 6 1/4, there's a very good chance That's 6 1/4 brings 9. NIHD. So if I get time, I'm going to chart it, and then over 9/11, a double extension is possible. NIHD, bullish do model. It's got serious potential, and it's structured. Dang, I shouldn't have shut that chart off. Where did I leave off? NHID. ICCC, up 20%, trading 913. So this is a trend trader's swing trading service dream. All they do is once it gets up over the 200 MA, they signal long, and once it gets under the 200 MA, they signal short. But in this chart, they would just signal long once it's up over the 200 MA. It's a funny chart. Like every time it gets up over the 200 MA, you could go along and win almost every trade. When it doesn't, take a small cut. You would take cuts along the way, but the big ones would well make up. And that's how that's done. Not my style though, the structure sucks. It is a structure, I guess, just not the kind that I want. VXRT, trading 285, absolute disastrous chart. And anything like that I'm not interested in. COE is the next one. So the last one was VXRT. This one's COE, disastrous chart. KNDI, not a bad chart, bit of structure in it. It's up over the 20, up over the 100, testing the 50. If it gets up over the 200, you could start to look at it. The first failed. Actually, the second failed. The first over here failed. But now you get the MAs underneath. This one will probably go above that 200 MA. So I'm going to alarm that. It's starting to structure. It's a reversal setting up for sure. 99.9%. KNDI. Oh shoot. LMB. So there goes my CARA alarm. So I'm just going to re-alarm this properly. I knew that was going to happen. While I'm doing this, our next chart that we're going to look at is FTNW. Wow, CARA is serious. It's really over 24 is what the alert should have said. But whatever, I'm going to leave the alert like it is. People have to look at the chart. Okay, what do we got here? We got FTNW. Terrible, awful, just awful. COCP. Awful. LOMA. TLRY is off 20% today. LOMA sucks. Okay, that's midday review. It's 1:04 p.m. September 20th, 2018. Thanks for coming out. If there's anything I can do for you, make sure you message me. Have a great afternoon, guys. I'll see you in futures.